This is my partially complete, somewhat crude, custom computer case that I built out of wood and a picture frame. It's obviously not finished yet, but should be by the end of the video. It's going to be a little rough around the edges, but I like it so far, and it's been a lot of fun to build. So let's go over how I built this case, and why. Why, God, why would I create such a hideous contraption? But obviously I'm filming this halfway through, so let's travel back in time. And yes, ChairDesk does have that capability. As you can tell, this channel is the pinnacle of super high-end production quality. Don't look at this. The blinds are fine. But in creating my videos, I have faced a grave and vague problem. Whenever I do computer build and upgrade videos, I usually use PC gaming or emulation to test the systems. And typically, I record the screen directly. You know what to do. Shame! 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 Now, I could just use some kind of screen capture software on every computer I mess with, but that would get kind of annoying. Installing the program, setting it up, messing with all the settings, and messing with file transfers on every one of the mini builds that I do. Not to mention, I'm not super familiar with setting up those kind of programs on Batocera, which is typically what I use for emulation. Also, where's the fun in doing it that way when we can instead build a crude, possibly somewhat ridiculous custom case type thing out of scrap materials that I have laying around? This will be more true to our style. This is my first time doing this type of build, and I'm not certain how or if it will turn out. But here's the general idea. I'm gonna take some of these 1x2s and other types of wood I have around and try to make some kind of box that will form just a sort of outline of the structure of the case. And then I'm going to have kind of a makeshift clear panel for the side of the case using one of these picture frames. I'm really intent on using these in some computer builds. They're super cheap at Walmart, usually just like $1 or $2, and I see some serious potential for these. I'm obsessed with picture frames. I love picture frames. I can't get enough. And I don't know if these are glass exactly. They feel more like a hard plastic, but are perfectly transparent. If you caught the "Can I make it look like a gaming PC" video, you may have noticed that I used a couple of similar, smaller frames in that modification. In order to fit the frame and make it part of the case, I have some ideas, but again, I'm just making this up as I go. But I'm going to cut grooves along the top of these trim pieces to try to possibly fit the frame into those grooves with some glue, and then butt the top and bottom pieces up against the frame to kind of hold it there. I'm realizing I probably should have planned way more, but I don't have to plan. I have a ChairDesk. I lowered the blade on my circular saw so that it only cut about 1/4 of an inch deep and then cut the groove along the board. Hopefully the frame will just slide right into this. It's just a blade width cut and the frame is fitting in here perfectly. It's not super snug, but it's snug enough, and with other boards pressed against it, I think this will have plenty of support without even needing glue. This is definitely a pleasant surprise. Once I tested the frame, I roughly measured and fitted everything and then cut the boards to size. Everything came together really well, so I cut some boards for the base and spray painted all the pieces. I've used this higher gloss paint again because even though the shine is kind of distracting with all the lights I have on for the video, it actually looks really nice in person in standard lighting. And I've moved on to the base now that this top part is complete. As you can see, the glass, it's staying in here really well. There's It might not look the greatest, but I think it came out pretty decent, and this is just going to be like the top part of the computer. I still have a lot to figure out though. I've cut all the pieces for the base, so these are going to be the edges, and then I'm going to run bolts up through the bottom of these boards, and then put a nut on each bolt, and have the motherboard kind of sitting on those bolts, and that'll just kind of elevate it a bit so it's not sitting on the wood. Once it's all connected, I should be able to just kind of hopefully slide this into the base and put a couple screws in each end so it'll look like something like this, roughly. After inserting the bolts, I dropped the motherboard down onto them and added a few more nuts over the top to hold it all together. And already I'm seeing my poor planning lead to several mistakes that I made. Like a fool. Like a fool! I wanted to offset the board to one side in order to fit a PSU and forgot. The flex power supply will still fit in there, but it's not what I had in mind. Also, the entire thing is just generally larger than I wanted. The initial plan was to use a riser cable to connect to the GPU so that I could lay it flat and just generally make it more compact all around. Possibly building a little platform inside for the GPU and the power supply. But again, I might have to revisit this in the future if I want to take it in that direction. For now, I took the rest of the thing that I'm calling a case and dropped it over the base that I made, and then ran a few screws to hold it all together, and now everything is at least intact. Here's one thing that did go well. The picture frame has this kind of cardboard paper type backing. It's almost like construction paper, but a little thicker. And the size is perfect to fill in the back and one of the sides of the case. So I went ahead and cut and installed those as kind of a cover. On one of the remaining sides, I'm going to install a couple of case fans. Does this build need 2 case fans? Absolutely not. But I need sides. That's not just something I yell when I'm driving through KFC. I need actual physical sides. I'm just leaving the front kind of open for now. I could probably pull another one of those backing sheets from a different frame and just use a utility knife to cut out the ports and connectors, but maybe some other inspiration will strike. Hindsight being 2020, there are a few things I would have done differently. I knew it wasn't going to be highly polished and beautiful, but I think it could have been a lot more compact with a little more planning. I'm going to be moving this around a lot, and even though it's surprisingly light, smaller would have been nice. But that's probably something I can explore later. Also, black screws might have been better than trying to use these bronze-colored ones as like kind of an accent. But with this being a first build, I at least now have some more ideas about how to approach this kind of thing in the future. This took a lot of effort, and there's still a few things I need to figure out, but I really did enjoy planning this out and putting it together and everything. And I hope you at least enjoyed watching the madness in action. I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll catch you later.